Right. So we are at historic. This is Charlestown Landing, but then you see now the Native Americans as the Aboriginal Americans. It's the same thing. The conversation we have about African American. These are these are Aboriginal Americans. So it says this is an ancient settlement of the Aboriginal Americans here. And so you can kind of see let's try to do it like that. That's dope. Corn-based agriculture during the Mississippi period led to the rise of permanent villages. We need to get back to this village culture. Imagine this in modern time, how that would look. Archaeologists interpreting Stanford. So they did. It says the crew uncovered rows of rounds of stains in the soil. These stains indicate the individual palisade posts that once surrounded this ritual space. All right. So I like this, and this is why I wanted to come out here, just so that we can kind of get a visual and kind of break more curses when it comes to our history and what's not told. So the people who were here prior to colonization, prior to the settlers, there were still people here. And I think that's very important to note, because it breaks a lot of myths. So this is Charlestown. Like when you hear Charleston, you literally think colonizer, slavery. And that's not to say that it didn't happen. But at the same time, what was here before? There were people here before slavery. Okay? Before colonization. There were civilizations here, So just think about that from, how wealthy that is to have, like, this is a peninsula. This, just like Turkey has a peninsula, just like San Francisco, Boston, they all have peninsulas. I wonder what's back there. And like, we're so brainwashed to be like, oh, well, everybody that got copper colored skin is a descendant of ex-slaves. Nah, buddy. They may be tied to a civilization that predates the civilizations in Egypt. But if we don't open our mind and explore in our minds, we just never know. All right? So you got to know who you are, buddy. All right? So and this chief that we coming up on is who essentially established friendships with the English when they came over here originally. Wow. allies, Casanova. So you see, now what they not depicting is these were some niggas. These were niggas. Niggas. The original Englishman was Nagas. That's why they were invited here. And with treaties, it's benefits on both sides. Both the English benefited for trade and commerce, and the Aboriginals, they benefited for the simple fact that they had somebody to trade with. You feel me? People to buy their crops, the cash crops. They said it was corn. So we gotta understand that it was all about commerce. So get a good look at that, good view. Hey. And I'm gonna get a better picture of this 1670. So remember, a lot happened in 1670. Boom. And like it took them about 63 years, really longer than that, to get a official establishment of a colony in North America. So you had like the Virginia Charter, you had the Charter to Sir Walter Raleigh. There's a charter before that. All these charters failed. The charter with the Virginia Company, it got revoked, and so it actually took a long time for them to get a colony established here. And like I tell y'all all the time, the colonies were just apartments. Just think about it like that. Oh wow. All right. So 1670, you had the Carolina Constitution, the fundamental Constitution of Carolina, where literally we're talking about you niggas. We were the dominant populace here. You know, whatever you want to call us, the original inhabitants, the Aboriginals, the indigenous, Carolinians, however you want to call it. We were here. We was here. We was here. So that Constitution was written for us. from Barbados to Carolina, large landowner profited from the labor of enslaved Africans who built homes, cleared fields, planted seeds, harvested crops. This marked the end of the slave-based plantation that originally settled here. Negro settlement. So it's a lot more to it. Wish I would have brought my books out here. So like the whole slavery shit don't faze me, bro. Let's talk about it. Let's entertain the conversations. What is this? All right. Let's go on back here. Let's keep going.
One-on-one, you were allowed to have your pictures without anybody else jumping into it.
You know, of course you're disturbed. It's disturbing. I didn't mean to cut the camera on me, but since I'm here, hello. We're doing ground research. This is part of my work. It's doing this ground research. And like we have to really look at what happened with slavery from a non-emotional standpoint. And like I said with slaves, a good book reference is Africa's Gift to America that talks about what really went on with slavery. And so it's a false assumption to say that everybody who is in America now that is of Negro descent is and was a part of the slave trade. So here's talking about this wall protecting the colony from Indian raids. I already know. We have with us much ado, our people being weak by reason of scarcity of provision. It's about acres. The colonists were aware that the Spanish, hostile Native Americans, which is the Aboriginal Americans, right? Because at the time, like if we say people today who claims Native American descent could be here like 2 generations and be considered a Native American. But back then, was nobody here but us. So that's what they're saying. And predatory animals threatened the safety. Well supplied by the Lord proprietors, they came to Carolina. Which means that Carolina was already here, prepared to defend themselves. Right? So they didn't discover Carolina. Carolina was already here. Neglecting the crops and homes, the entire community labored to build a wall of defense, and they moved tons of earth to make a broad ditch. They felled hundreds of trees and erected massive palisade. It stretched 1,500 feet across the Albemarle report. Never sure of when an attack might occur, the men carried guns in the fields and even armed their slaves. All right, let me see. It's really good to go look at this because it's a lot that was happening, you know. Archaeological exhibits. We're gonna go over there in a second, but let's come over here, see what they found. You gotta look, acknowledge slavery. We gotta heal from it for sure. But there's so much more history to be unraveled here in America than just slavery. Slavery. In fact, this museum that's attached to this place talks about how the concept was actually borrowed from us. See what they talking about. It says the frame of timber before you marks the outline of ghosts of the structure. The size and shape of the corner posts are based on archaeological evidence. The settlers raised this building by putting round corner posts directly into the ground. All right, let's see. Really don't have a lot of time to play with today. Yeah, man, this is why, like, I think, hmm, okay, that's why I just left. So I wonder, I'm gonna walk back out this way just so I know I'm like back on the right path. Cause that's the wall there. And I don't want to get too far off track. And it's a couple of things I want to see. All right, so I'm gonna cut out and I'm gonna make another video once I get more content. All right. But yeah, you gotta go to these places. Gotta go to these places. Um, and you see that comment all over the place. Like Dorothea Dix Park, we were there this week, and that's another. I'll flip the camera. Dorothea Dix is another indigenous site that became a plantation. Um, so these are heavy indicators that, like, yeah. Oh, they got mounds, bro. They have mounds up here. Wow. In your face. This is why you gotta go. Right? So, dog, there's a whole fleet of mounds. So, I think that the whole slavery thing is what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they don't want you to look into yourself. They want you to be in bondage with your history, your real history. They want to block it from you. Look at these. Look at these mounds. So I'm gonna make a closer video. I'm in another video as I get closer up there. All right. Peace.